Hi everybody. Today we're going to be building a stud wall. So I've gathered together some of the tools that you're going to need to be able to do this. We're going to be building it based on 16 on center. It's a basic wall. You'll be able to build it yourself. Okay everybody, here's the tools that you're going to need to bring or to have when you're going to be building your wall. Over here we have a circular saw, standard circular saw. I like the cordless. It's just a little bit easier to use. Beside that, I have my safety glasses for when I'm cutting wood. It's just for safety's sake. Over here you have your impact driver, or you can use a regular drill, even a hammer drill. We have our screws. I prefer the 3-inch Robertson, and it just makes it a lot easier, or we could call it the square head. Long story short, use that. Even a longer bit like this, you'll actually find it a little bit easier to get behind it. Then we move on to the sill plate gasket. So over here, this will actually go on the bottom of your bottom stud, and I use the stapler to actually secure it to it, so that when you're putting it in, it's just makes life easier. You got your measuring tape for obviously your measurements, your hammer for straightening out boards. Over here you have your standard knife to be able to cut the pink, and last but not least, you have your level and a pen and paper. I also use a horse over here. This horse, I set them up so that it's able to cut wood, and then obviously our stacks of wood and the 2 beams that I'm going to start with. Here you'll find our 2 studs. One of these I'm going to use as the base of our wall. If you look at it, you can see these rings. Now what happens is, over time, these rings will actually cause the stud to bow. What you want to do is you always want to have these rings going downwards for at least the bottom plate. That way when it starts to bow, it actually will bow downwards, and it'll prevent the wall from having issues in the future. So that's one thing that you always want to look at. You want to look at the way the grain in the wood is working. Alright, long story short, you're going to take your measuring tape. You're going to take it, oops, you're going to measure down really quick. You can actually go the whole length of the board. Alright, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to say, okay, so here's the starting point. The board is going to line up on that. Then I'm going to go down to the next one, which is the 16. I'm going to draw a line. Alright, and because the board started on this side, so the actual wood is going to go from there, I have to start this one at the start. So when the board starts, it's actually going to go right here. And I draw a little arrow explaining that. And then I go to the next one, and I do a 32. Again, board is going to go here, and there's the arrow. And this is just a quick way, and I work my way all the way down the board with this method. Okay, so we have our board. I've made the markings for 16 on center, so these are where the studs are going to go on. And now what I'm doing is I'm taking this sill plate gasket, and I'm actually going to put it on the bottom of this board. So this is kind of how I've been doing it, or I like to do it. Basically line it up. I take my trusty stapler, quickly put it on. Alright, make sure you got it nice. I put 1, straight, 2, and 3. You don't really, actually it's overkill to do 3, but that way when it shifts, you got it. Then I take the X-Acto knife, and I just do a quick trim, just 5 seconds. 1, and over here, 2. The last one I did was a 45, so I cut these up. Okay, on to the next phase. Okay, so what I did is I took my measuring tape and I measured from here all the way down to the floor. All right, and it came out to, and I wrote this down, came out to 81 inches. So what I am planning to do is, obviously in the same sort of situation here, you'll see we have our baseboard and our top board, okay, and our studs in between. So what I've done is This space right here is always, the width of a stud is 1.5. So from that 81 inches, I had to take off the top and the bottom board, all right, which is going to work out to 78 inches. So having that 78-inch mark, now I'm able to cut my wood to the 78 inches. On a standard board, for the bottom board, I didn't have to trim it because my span is the full length. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 boards that I need to cut. So this will speed it up once you do this, and then we can actually start screwing it all together. Okay, so I've just prepared the wood to be cut for the studs of the wall. Long story short, I've taken my pencil, I've measured the distance from one side to the other. In doing so, I've marked a line on the first 3 boards that I'm going to be cutting. I'm using my circular saw. One thing you got to note with a circular saw or any saw is the wood is going to fall as you cut it, unless you're lucky. So wear your steel toes. Number 2, when you're going to be cutting, here is the notch that you're actually going to be using to cut. Imagine that is the length of the blade that's going to be cut as well. So if you are going to be using it, you may want to line up against this line or the other one, otherwise your cut's going to be slightly off. Anyways, just make sure that you're aware that if the line is on this side, right there, right on that little corner, then the cut will be directly on the line. And wear your safety goggles as well, just so that you can actually watch what you're doing. Okay, after this I'll have all the wood cut and we'll be ready to put it on the board. Okay, so I've laid down the wall. As you know, I have basically prepped everything. All the wood has been cut. I have the additional boards up here, but I want to show you 2 methods of building it. You can build it on the floor as a frame and then basically lift it into place. Or what you can do is you can actually build it upright when it's already up. This is where you've already done, let's say, the work. You have a top board, a bottom board, and then you're just hammering in the additional studs. So I'll show both methods here, but long story short, for this method, with the board on the bottom, I did 16 on center with the top board. So you can see the first stud is going to go there, second is there, the third is there, and then so on and so forth all the way down. That way I can quickly line up the boards and screw them together. So I'm going to do that now, and then I will lift it in place and show you the other method. Okay, sometimes you're going to find that your board is actually kind of it's not straight, it's torqued. It's wood, it's natural, that's normal. I kind of built this thing here. What I did is I take 2 small pieces of wood, pretty much the same depth as one of your boards, and I put a little kind of lever on it. So if you look down here, okay, you'll see it's not straight. What I'm able to do is to bend the board, okay, so that it is straight, and then I'm able to throw a screw into it. Typically what I'll do is I'll put a screw at the top and at the bottom. It's a slightly different style if you're going to be basically screwing them in from above, but I'll show that in the next clip. Okay, so what I've done here is I've taken the wall, I pulled it up, and then what I did is I attached it to where I want it at the top. I put a screw in there to make sure that it's secure. And then what I did is I took my 4-foot level, okay, I lined it up over here to make sure that I'm straight and level, plumb, whatever you want to call it. And then what I did is I put another screw down at the bottom there just to secure it in place. Now when I'm working with this, I'll be able to make sure that it's straight. Okay, so this is our last board in the wall. This is a slightly different method of putting up the studs. Basically, we have it's already in the top and in the bottom. I've pre-cut my board. My board is a tiny touch longer than it needs to be, but that's okay. It'll actually give it a snugger fit. So I have my markings on the top and bottom boards, my ledger boards, or whatever. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to make sure it's straight on these lines. So I just get it done and done. Secure, lined up at the top and the bottom, and I'm ready to put in my screws. If you want to come on over, I'll show you 2 different methods. You can actually put a screw in. So here's your screws. You can put one in over here on an angle 45 like that, and that'll secure it. You do one from either side. Or you can actually put one in on a 45 here, and then the opposite side here. You can't really see it, but it's identical to this side on a 45. So you're going to go one side this way, and it'll hold it from turning. And that's pretty much it. I'm going to put these last screws in and I'll show you the wall in its entirety. Okay, so here's our wall. It's been completed. There's not much more. We're going to actually continue on, and I'm going to continue to frame the remainder of this basement. I will actually show updates on that, but this is the wall series, stud wall, without drywall or anything, or electrical. I'll show you another one with electrical. So there's going to be many in the series of how to do this work. Last but not least, I didn't show this step, but you can actually just knock the wall into place. You put your 4-foot level on the studs, make sure that you're straight. So now I know the back end and the front end are completely level, and we have a perfectly straight wall ready to go. Okay, thank you for watching.